Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Bill Bullock coming to you live from the Biblical Lifestyle Center in Texarkana, USA. We're here today for another Sabbath morning's teaching of Torah. Our series this year, again, is returning to and laying hold of the tree of life. This week, Parsha Lecha, Genesis 12:1 through 17:27. I call it Introducing the Abrahamic Initiative, the asset released upon the earth. So we're studying about returning to and then laying hold of the tree of life. It's an image I want to get in your mind and a hunger I want to build in your heart for returning to and laying hold of this tree of life. What is the tree of life? The Proverbs, the book of Proverbs in chapter 3, Shlomo, or Solomon as he's known in the Western world, writes to his sons and those who might be king one day, says, the higher wisdom as presented in Torah, he calls it with personification. The higher wisdom as presented in Torah is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. This is our quest to find that tree of life and to lay hold of it. A tree of life to those who lay hold of her is the higher wisdom presented by Torah. Now, what's a tree? We're talking about the tree of life. The tree is a power generator. The tree is a shade giver. The tree is a fruit producer. So we're having this level of energy coming forth, shade being cast, fruit being produced, all these things. The higher wisdom of Torah provides us power, provides us shade and safety, and provides us fruit, helps us to produce fruit. And what kind of fruit are we talking about specifically? The tree of life, of Hayim, Ha-Hayim in Hebrew it is. And it comes from the verb Hayah, which means to thrive or to cause to thrive, to flourish or to cause to flourish, to prosper, to cause to prosper, to live with sustainable levels of vigor for all situations and circumstances, and to live according to and develop divine potential from creation and from the original design. So this is what we're looking for. A higher wisdom as presented in Torah is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Are you finding her? Are you looking for her? Are you wanting her? And are you desiring to find that tree of life and lay hold of it? Well, let's dig into the higher wisdom presented in Torah. Because higher quality life, this Ha'ayim quality life is available, beloved. It's not your common experience, but it is available to anyone, to all who will seek the higher wisdom of the Creator and walk in His more excellent ways, because He is infinitely wise and infinitely good. The Torah teaches us that there is a vast difference between men who walk with the Creator and walk in His disciplines and walk in His tree of life and lay hold of it, and those who do not. The differences in quality of life for the individual, and also the differences in the societal impact that the person may have and the legacy the person may leave. There is significant, vast difference between the legacy, between the quality of life, between the social impact that a person has, depending on whether he does or does not walk with the Creator, returning to and laying hold of the tree of life, walking in the higher wisdom of Torah. Men who walk with the Creator in this journey learn and begin to practice disciplines that align the nefesh, which is the mind, will, and emotions of a man, with his neshama, which is his God-breathed spirit, from Genesis 2:7, when the Holy One breathed His own breath of life into Adam and made him a nishmat chayim, a living soul, a living spirit, a living neshama. And then also this alignment that takes place when we walk with the Creator gradually works its way into our third level, which is our flesh, which is our humanity, which is our actual actions upon the earth and words that we speak, and even the impressions that we lay. Men who walk with the Creator in these ways and learn these practical disciplines of neshama, nefesh, basar, flesh, alignment, bring hope and healing into the world. Did you hear me? They bring hope and healing into. Does the world that you live in need hope and healing? Do you want to play a part in bringing that hope and healing to the world you live in? Now, men who do not walk with the Creator, on the other hand, do not follow these disciplines, who do not catch and grab a hold of the higher wisdom of the Torah, they quickly revert to animalistic state. They begin to be driven by lusts of the flesh, urges, appetites, instincts, habits, defense mechanisms, trigger points. All these pull on our uncircumcised flesh receptors, and that uncircumcision issue is going to be addressed in this week's parsha. I'll give you a heads up. The uncircumcised flesh receptors that cause us to react as animals do when we get moved by appetites or urges or drives or desires or instincts or habits or have our triggers pushed. So the lust of the basar is one thing that happens when men do not walk with the Creator and walk in these ways of the tree of life. They begin to be driven by the lust of the flesh. But the other thing is they begin to also be driven by the vain imaginations of their mind. See, the mind is poisoned whenever it is not in connection, in sync with the Creator of the universe and receiving His downflows of wisdom. The human mind gets poisoned, distracted, diseased, and we begin to indulge vain imaginations of the mind, of the will, and of the emotions. We take on philosophies and ideologies and groupthink biases like ethnicity and race and culture and nationality. We take on religion in a form and its substance without having any real life to it. These are the vain imaginations of the nephesh, of the soul, as well as go with the lust and the passions of the flesh. These things take us into animalistic state and take us out of the ability to bring hope and healing into our world. Well, let's set the scene for the next set of stories we're going to read in Torah. What has happened since the last story that we read in Torah? The last mashal, the last proverb. It's a real, true event that took place. All these things that are written in Torah really happened. But not only did they really happen, they're written in Torah and recorded for us because they have wisdom encoded within them. So what happened in the last great tale that the Torah told? Well, the Tower of Babel happened. We live in the post-Tower of Babel world. We now have raging nations that offset and counterbalance one another. It's a pressure regulation protocol that the Creator implemented. He took away the one thing that unified mankind at that time, and that was the Hebrew language, the beautiful language of heaven, where heaven communicated with man through the Hebrew language. He took that away and he made people communicate in their own. They came up with their own ways from the standpoint of grunts and utterances all the way into formalized languages of now we have Greek and English and Spanish and Arabic and Urdu and various different languages now. And we are based around these languages and the cultures that have devolved around those languages. We have an offsetting world where one nation rages against another nation, rises against another nation, but there is a pressure relief valve and these raging nations counterbalance and offset one another and the world goes on. This is the pressure regulation protocol of the Holy One. It's His means without a flood that would destroy the entire world and kill all mankind. Without a flood, He manages the Ra and the Shakat and Hamas that runs unchecked through us in these days. He manages that through the raging nations phenomenon. So we have this, and with one little tweak of the earth ecosystem, by removing the Hebrew language as a unifying factor, the Creator speak language, from the minds of men, He set in motion this offsetting collective system. He knows that with men who do not walk with Him, what they do not understand, they fear. And what they fear, they grow to hate, despise, dehumanize, and demonize. He knows, the Holy One knows, that what men hate and despise and dehumanize and demonize, they will be repulsed by, they will separate from, they will compete with, and they will stand in opposition to and resist and stand against, and that will keep everything in balance. It's an amazing system. It has its challenges to us from our perspective when we're part of one of the raging nations. But why is such a thing really necessary? Well, Genesis 8:21 told us toward the end of parts of Noah. He said, the yetzer, the focus, the formulation, the meditation, the inclination of man's heart. This is even after the flood. The yetzer, the focus, the formulation, the meditation, the inclination of man's heart is only raw, is only self-obsessed, is only negative, is only toxic from his youth. This is the state of mankind. That's why the raging nations phenomenon of collective offsets is necessary in this age, in this time. But the Holy One has a solution for that, and we will get to that in time. So the Genesis 11:8-9 told us last week, the Holy One separated over, he poured over all the languages of the earth and separated them into different languages. And from there, the Holy One scattered, sowed seed of humanity all abroad across the face of the entire earth. And that established the raging nations phenomenon. Genesis 10:5 went on. It said, from the three sons of Noach, the coastland peoples of the Goyim, the Gentiles, were separated into their own separate lands. So language took place, and then geographical separation took place according to families and clans in their Goyim, in their nations. And the nations began to build. Genesis 11:31 said, and Terach, which is one of the sons of the descendants of Shem, a son of Noach, a son of Adam. Then Terach took Avram, his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, and Sarai, his wife, and he went out from Ur of the Chaldeans. Terach went out with Avram and his wife, Sarai, and his nephew Lot. And they went out from Haran, from Ur of the Chaldeans, and they went toward the land of the Canaan, including Israel and North Africa. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. They didn't make it all the way. They stopped halfway, and they stopped in Upper Mesopotamia, and that's where we ended last week's parsha with the calling of being felt with Terach, but not being able to be followed all the way to its conclusion. Instead, he got Avram out of Ur of the Chaldees, Avram and Sarai out of Ur of the Chaldees. Lot came with them. They went to Haran, and that's where they have settled. That's where our story begins. The Holy One begins, and the earth is about to experience its most dramatic atmospheric shift since the flood. This time, the medium of transformation for the earth will not be inundation, it will be revelation. Are you ready for revelation? Well, get ready, because in a sleepy little Bronze Age village on the backside of nowhere, actually Haran in Upper Mesopotamia, a man named Avram, the son of Terach, who traveled there from Ur of the Chaldees, an aging now Middle Eastern sheep herder and goat herder, is about to have an encounter with the creator of the universe that will change everything. The beautiful words that the old sheep herder named Avram will hear in this encounter, and the surge of creative energy that will flow from heaven, download into his body and his mind and his will and emotions in this encounter, this energy that will enter him, and his old mind and body will absorb. And in the course of that encounter, the world will be changed forever. A new initiative will take place upon the earth where heaven reaches out to earth. It's called, in my heart, in my ways, the Abrahamic initiative. Are you a part of it? Are you ready for it? Well, come, beloved, to the age of the Abrahamic initiative, the age of strategic counterbalance +1. Phase 1 of this new age has been the many nations that rage with no common vision, no common worldview, and no common energy that they perceive. They just don't trust each other. Phase 2, the new phase, is about to begin with Abraham. Will be first Avram, and then his seed will be deployed amidst all the raging nations to serve the role of the perceived common enemy. They will not know what to do with him. Remember, what you do not know, you fear. What you do not fear, you hate and despise and dehumanize. And then you react to. And all the nations that rage will be faced to have to deal with this Abraham character, who the Holy One is going to put on the world stage, and all of his seed will be on the world stage as well, and they will stir something in the raging nations that rage, and stir something in the peoples that indulge vain imaginations. And the epoch of as goes Israel, so go the nations will be on, and we're in it now. As goes Israel, so goes the nations. So go the nations. Well, with that in mind, beloved, let's get ourselves ready for this encounter that we're about to have. That's going to change the world. Let's get ready for this initiative that's about to hit the earth and is about to be understood now by those of us who are into the Torah again this year. Let's sing the Shema and tune our hearts to the heavens. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. And now listen and hear and heed and respond appropriately, O Israel. Resonate with the sound of that pitch. Our God that we are studying is the Holy One. And the Holy One is the ultimate oneness, the unifying unity that draws all things in the universe that he created into his orbit, into his gravitational pull. He is the ultimate oneness, the unifying unity. Let us come to him, and blessed be his glorious attributes, his name, and his kingdom forever and ever. Amen. Last week, we left off in the aftermath of the One World Order rebellion on the plain of Shinar. That's when the dispersion of the nations took place. The Holy One intervened again for the sake of the planet and the plan. He separated the peoples, and they are separated into competing nations, competing tribes, competing clans, competing tongues, languages. And each of these entities is going about the business of pursuing its own interests and its own interests only. Understand that about the nations. No one's perfect. No one's better than another. They're just different in the way they perceive their self-interest. Each of these entities pursued only its own interest, and therefore they could not, and this was the plan, unite in another rebellion against the Holy One, on a plain of Shinar kind of rebellion, where he told them to go spread throughout the earth and spread his shadow and his shade throughout the earth and his light throughout the earth. He told them that, but they wanted to go into cities and build towers. And so they cannot now unite in another rebellion against the Holy One, because they fear and they hate and they envy and they compete with and they want to conquer one another and colonize one another. That's what the raging nations do. That's what the raging nations phenomenon is all about. And these raging nations reinforce their revulsion pattern, as I call it, in every generation, because they teach their children to do the things they do, which is dehumanize, hate, demonize, distrust, and hate all those of other nations. It's part of the plan. So all nations, including all collectives, ethnicity and religion and philosophy and ideology, all collectives hone the art of war and rumor of war. The art of war and rumor of war is how they console themselves that they were not going to be conquered, that they're not going to be overwhelmed, that they are superior in some way than their neighbor. And some, to enforce this, employ brute force. They like to launch bloody military campaigns, raping, pillaging, looting, mass slaughter, conquest, dimitude, jizya. They enforce minority status and oppression status upon other people, and they traffic in humanity, and they sell slaves and force people into slavery, and they sell slaves. This is the one level of arts of wars and rumors of wars. Another is the cultural exchange tactic. They conquer other nations, or attempt to conquer other nations and cultures, by sending waves of their own population as migrants into the territory that they want to influence. And they send these migrants in there into the territory of a targeted adversary, disguised as migrants, disguised as the sojourners, disguised as weak, helpless people, but they're a Trojan horse. And their real purpose is colonization, mass intermarriage, and eventual takeover of the society. It's another form of war and rumor of war. Well, still other of the raging nations choose more subtle deceptions, strategically poisoning the social fabric of their most feared and envied and hated adversaries by seducing them with disinformation, misinformation. with ideologies, with propaganda, designed and aimed at the discontent within the society they hate, and the weak of mind and resolve among them within the targeted nation's populations. They use a witch's brew of their own cultural, economic, philosophical, and or religious propaganda, their talking points, as it were. Well, now, as we get ready to engage in the Abrahamic initiative, there are 70 nations. And, well, they rage all the time. They imagine vain things all the time, and they rise against other nations in every way, at every level. Knowing that is going on, the Holy One has a plan. And he does not intend to fix this situation by bringing another flood-like event of mass destruction on the earth. He has something else up his sleeve. This is going to be good. How will the ecosystem nemesis trifecta of Ra, Shechat, and Hamas be counterbalanced and kept in check by the Holy One in the next Senate season? How will it be neutralized going forward? Welcome to your purpose on the earth. Welcome to the role of Abraham and his seed. Welcome to the King's vision and plan for fixing the world. Welcome to the grand adventures of the Holy One's plan in strategic, effective, God-honoring, counterculture pushback. So we're going to we have a new setting for the stories, the Mashalim of Parsha Lecha. We're going to have 10 different places things are going to take. As he begins to introduce this Abrahamic initiative and his agent or his asset, Abraham and his seed into the world and the nations to counterbalance all this Ra, Shechat, and Hamas faced by the raging nations. We're going to have 10 scenes. First, it's going to all start in a sleepy village of Haran in upper Mesopotamia. That's where Avram is found. That's where he and Sarai are doing what they do, finishing out their life because they're barren and have no children. And they have no significance to speak of. And that's exactly the ones the Holy One likes to use. So it all starts in the village of Haran in upper Mesopotamia. It transfers then, it shifts, the focus will shift down southward toward the land we know of as Israel, the Holy Land. And the first place there we'll go is Shechem, alongside Alon Moreh, the oaks of Moreh. And then we'll go from there to Bet-El, along between Ai and Beit El on a hillside there, and we'll have a scene there. And we'll have a scene then in Mitzrayim, Egypt as it's well known. This will be typical of all the other scenes we'll see there in later years. The fifth place we'll go and have the download is Hebron, Elonai Mamre, the terebinth tree, or the place of the source of the balm of Gilead, found at Mamre. And then the sixth place will be at Yam HaMelech, the area around this, what is now known as the Sea of Salt, the Salt Sea or the Dead Sea. There are 5 cities, and back in those days there were 5 cities in the plain, Sodom, Gomorrah, and some others. And those cities will be the scene of the next Mashalim, the next Proverbs of the Torah, the teaching stories of the Torah. Then we'll go all the way northward to Haba, or Hobah, it's called, which is north of Damascus in what's known as Syria now. It's the scene of the recovery battle where Avram's going to go with his 300 318 herdsmen from the area around Hebron, and they're going to go and they're going to rescue Lot and his family and bring back all the wealth of the cities of the plain to return it back to its owners. Then we'll find the Valley of Shavah. We'll have encounters in the Valley of Shavah. The Valley of Shavah is where Avram is going to meet, this new asset is going to meet his first king, the king of Sodom. He's also going to meet the king of Salem, Melchizedek. And then he's going to, so our shift will be to the place of Salem, or Shalem. Salem is going to be called later Jerusalem. And then finally, the scene of our settings for the Mashalim for Lech Lecha will end at Be'er Lahai Roi, a well springing forth out of the sands of the deserts in the south part of the Negev, where the Holy One's angel meets and prophesies to Hagar, the mother, eventual mother of Ishmael. One of the main things that we're going to encounter in Avram's situation is the prototypical city of darkness, Sodom. Sodom, as it's usually called in the Western world. It's the mother city of 5 cities in the plain, but we use the term Sodom to be a collective representation of all those 5 cities. But the sequence, we get introduced to those back in Genesis 10:19 last week. And the border of the Canaani, the Torah tells us, the border of the Canaanites, the sons of Canaan, which is the son of Ham. The border of the Canaanites was from Zidon, as you go down toward Gerar, from what's now a part of Lebanon, down towards places now close to Gaza, as far as Gaza, the text actually says. Then as you go eastward towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, as far as Lecha. This is the naming of the 5 cities of the plains. This is where the Canaani is. We need to know this is a Canaani city. This is the Canaani stronghold. This is the place where all the power is focused. This is the place where all the economic strength of Canaani is focused. This is the center of their population. This is the center of their culture. This is the heartbeat of the raging nation, Sodom, and the 5 cities of the plain. And Genesis 13:13 tells us, so we get ready to begin, and this week's parsha is going to tell us that the men of Sodom, the men of Sodom were Ra'im. They were exceedingly self-obsessed and infected with Ra. And they were Hata'im. They were perverse, reprobate, very much before the Holy One. Now we're introduced to the scene, the circumstance. And if you understand what's at stake here, you understand how important the Abrahamic initiative is. All our cities of the world are somewhat like Sodom. Now, what was the problem in Sodom exactly? I know everyone has their ideas and they think short term, but Ezekiel, Yechezkiel, the prophet, told us a little bit about what goes on in Sodom. He said the perverseness of Sodom's residents included 4 things. 1, pride, gaon in Hebrew. It means a sense of their own splendor, of their own beauty. And they feel like they put other people to shame and to awe. And they get puffed up in that. Pride, gaon, splendor, beauty that draws and awes another, at least in our own eyes, and therefore puffs one up. That was number 1 level of perverseness of Sodom. And isn't it true with regard to most of the nations of the world? Second, it was fullness of bread. In other words, they had more than they needed. They had an abundance. They were the land of, in their eyes, they were the land of milk and honey. They had finances, and the rest of the world could be envious of their finances. The third thing about Sodom, third level of its darkness, was that it was abundantly idle. The people didn't have enough to do. They didn't keep themselves busy. They entertained themselves with perversions. They entertained themselves with indulgences. They entertained themselves with collections and thoughts and vain imaginations. They were unproductive, super indulgent. They used, probably if they had any, they would use substances. That's what people do today when they have nothing better to do. They turn to substances and theologies and philosophies and ideologies and ethnistic arguments. So they had the abundance of idleness. They had not enough to do. And the fourth thing they had was failure to strengthen the hand of the poor. Anyone who was there came into their being. They had no sympathy for them. They had no empathy for them. They regarded them as adversaries, and therefore they did not help those who were oppressed and outcast. They actually oppressed and cast out those people. So those are the things of Sodom, and you understand this is the problem with the raging nations. They were the epitome. They are the example. This is the model, what not to do, how not to live, how not to build a nation, how not to build a culture. That's what we're dealing with. So here we are as we get ready to start with Abraham. Same mission we've got from Genesis and from Bereshit and from Noah. Remember to be the earthly shadow of Elohim. We're to imitate him. We're to bear his image. We're to be fruitful and multiply and expand across the earth. We're to fill the earth to its fullness and bring it to its potential. We're to bring all species of life under authority and subdue them in accordance with the plan of God. We are to work with, take dominion over all the creeping animals and species like that. We are to tend and serve and keep and cherish and guard and protect the garden and the land, and even the thorn and thistle realm, which we deal with. This is our mission, same mission, it won't change. This is the mission of mankind, but we have a failure alert. And now we have a new deployment location or series of locations, and the Holy One has an initiative, a plan here to increase the level of mitzvot, of instruction manuals, how to actually fix this situation, and then an increasing level of mashalim, or stories, or proverbs to teach us how to apply those mitzvot, those commandments, those instructions in real time, in real ways. That's what we've got, same mission, higher level mitzvot and higher level mashalim. In Parsha Lecha, we're going to get 8 supplemental mitzvot. The Holy One is going to download to us 8 additional instructions that goes along with us being fruitful and multiplying and being His shadow, or His image upon the earth, and bearing His image to the world and taking dominion. All those things. We're going to get 8 more mitzvot. First, it'll be what He's going to tell Avram, and through Avram, all of the seed. You need to be prepared to Lecha, to go out from your matrix womb, that is your comfort zone, that is where you came from and what you're limited by. Go out, to transcend that. There is a call going out, and the instruction from the Holy One is prepare to transcend. You must break free of the matrix womb that you're used to, the mindset, the limited worldview, the raging nation's thought processes. You must break free of that and have a vision for something greater. Go out. Lech Lecha. This is instruction number 1. Now the stories that we're going to read, the Mashalim will read, will flesh out what that looks like in real time when we go out, when we do in fact go out, to find ourselves, to be ourselves, to break free from all things that are not ourselves, that we have limited ourselves by thought or by behavioral pattern. The second of the 8 mitzvot of Parsha Lech Lecha, the new mitzvot that we're getting, are Sana Ayaneka Vera'ah. Lift up your eyes, the Holy One will say. Lift up your eyes. And behold, this is in Genesis 13:14, whenever Avram is brought back into the land after being in Egypt, and he's told, and he separates from Lot and his herdsmen, and Lot and his herdsmen go to Sodom, the cities of the plain, and Abraham is instead left with looking at the entire land, and the Holy One says, lift up your eyes, and behold. So beloved, the instruction of the Holy One, the mitzvah you will need is keep your eyes focused on Him. I lift my eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help. This idea of lifted eyes. Don't look at the things that are going on in the world and be obsessed by them. Understand, we have quantum entanglement with another realm, another world. Praise the Holy One. He's the one who's directing things and choreographing things. And we're just seeing raging nations respond to those things as they normally do. And yet He controls the outcome in every situation. So lift up your eyes, and behold, He says, north, south, east, and west, the Holy One said, all the land that you see, the things that you see, I will entrust to you and to your stewardship forever, He told Abraham. And what that means is we have the capacity to influence every place He lets us see when our eyes are uplifted to Him. He's given us these places to engage with and to bring light and hope to. The third of the supplemental instructions or mitzvot of this parsha is kum hithalek ba'aretz. Arise, kum. Arise, hithalek, walk. Arise and walk and travel, move, get in motion on the land throughout its length and its width, He will tell Abraham. This is our instruction. We're not supposed to be static. We're not supposed to be stagnant. We're not supposed to let things get too comfortable down here. We're supposed to be always engaging with the world, looking for new opportunities to engage with the world, moving all the time. In that movement, there is this connection with the quantum entanglement of the heavens with the earth. So the fourth is al tira. Al tira, usually translated in English as fear not. Don't be afraid. One of the famous rabbis, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, said, all of the life is just merely a journey across a narrow bridge, and the secret is not to be afraid. Fear is our biggest flesh challenge. And fear then infects our mind and gets us to thinking in paranoid, delusional thoughts. It gets us worrying and anxious. And he says, this is the anathema to the plan, to the Avrahamic initiative. The Avrahamic initiative requires you to resist the temptation to fear. Al tira, resist and overcome and transcend fear. For the Holy One will say, he is Magan Lach. He is your shield. Magan Lach, your shield. And he is Charkam Harveh Me'od. He is your exceedingly great reward, compensation, delight, and joy in this world. If he is that, then you will, Al Tira, you will not be afraid of what human beings or nations or armies can do to you. So with these different mitzvot will come a series of higher level stories. So with these stories, let me start with them. The stories of Parsha Noach, or Parsha Lech Lecha, I should say. The stories of Parsha Lech Lecha begin, and the first mashal is the apprehension story itself. Hearing when Avram is a sheep herder on the backside of nowhere in Haran, with no real hope for much impact upon the world, and suddenly everything changes in an instant. There is a piercing of what I call the affinity barrier, the barrier that exists between the heavenly realm, the unseen realm, and the earthly realm, which is the seen, material, physical realm. There is a barrier that usually is not crossed. The Holy One stays on his side and we stay on our side. But in this situation, in some situations, whenever it's appropriate for the redemption of the ecosystem and the salvation of man, the Holy One will intervene. And he will cross the affinity barrier, and he does so. This time he does it with just his voice. He just speaks out of the darkness, out of the heavens into the earth, and a portal opens up by virtue of the power of his voice, and he speaks to Avram, and this is where he says, Lech, Lecha, go out for yourselves. Go out from your land, go out from your family, go out from your father's house to a land that I will show you. He begins to birth something through this releasing of the voice. The apprehension of Abraham came because he heard the most beautiful voice he had ever heard, that any human being will ever hear. Have you heard that voice? Have you asked to hear that voice? Have you hungered for that voice? Does that voice draw you? The thought of that voice draw you into holiness and wisdom? Well, the apprehension mashal is the beginning of the story of Abraham and the Abrahamic initiative. Hearing the voice and then internalizing the energy and impetus. So I will bless you and I will make you a great name. The Holy One speaking this over Abraham. These downloads of heaven are coming down. No form is seen. Nothing is seen. Just the voice comes from the realm we can't see, the unseen realm. A voice speaks to Abraham and says, I will make of you a great nation. I will make you a great name. You will be a blessing. And those who bless you, I will bless. And those who curse you, I will curse. And you will become a blessing to every household, every family, every mishpacha on the face of the earth. Oh my, change the world in a few seconds, in a few moments, in a few words. This introduced something into the world that the world had not seen. The raging nations are better duck, because here comes the Abrahamic initiative. Well, the energy impetus of this beauty realm Kedusha is downflowing into Abraham and into Haran, and everywhere he goes now, he's going to carry this energy. He's going to carry these words, and the energy is in the words, not in the obedience to the words. So, second item, the second level of the mashal, the second mashal will be the crossing over. Abraham will become the wandering Aramaean. We talk about it at Passover. He will become this wandering man who is always in search of a city with foundations, whose builder and maker is God. That is what he's in search of. And so he becomes this wandering Aramaean, and that's where he accomplishes the biggest result, because he doesn't need to be fixed in one spot. He needs to be throughout the world, shining his light wherever he goes, bringing the energy, the impetus of the voice and the beauty realm Kedusha of the words wherever he goes. He becomes the one who crosses over. Hebrew, Alvar in Hebrew, it means to cross over, to transcend. And so he becomes the ultimate transcender, the ultimate crossing over. And those who follow in his footsteps, those of us who are either according to his blood or engrafted into his covenant lifestyle, these are the ones who cross over, become Hebrews. The third mashal, the third story of this wisdom story that teaches how to apply these mitzvot or instructions that I mentioned earlier is the finding of the entrenched and overwhelming Canaanite presence and rule and authority, death grip, as it were, over the land that we will know later as the land of the patriarchs, the land of Israel. You find that the Canaanite are a oppressive, destabilizing force. They are making the earth groan in eager expectation by their perversions. It is not that they are the model of negativity for the world. They are not alone in their negativity. They're just the model and the worst example the world has to offer of that at this time. And then we'll find the next story will be the story of the famine that's in the land, the challenge that Avram faces, that all human beings face, of getting food for themselves and their family, and water and drink, and finding shelter. This is the challenge of famine in the land. We see it faced in Abraham. This is one of the mashalim, the proverbs, the stories that we learn how to apply the instructions of the Holy One in that. The fifth mashal or story of this parsha will be talking about the challenges and the hazards of living among the raging nations. As you know, Abraham will go not just to the land of the Canaanite where they are entrenched and don't intend to let go. He also is going to go to the deep, dark, mysterious land of Egypt, and he will be in the captivity, basically. At least Sarai will be in the captivity of Pharaoh. And we're learning how to live, face the hazards of living among the raging nations and the peoples who imagine vain things and who have suspicion, if not hatred, toward us. The sixth mashal that's given to us in the few chapters of Parsha Lecha is the family relationship challenge. And not only are we having trouble from outside, people don't trust us, don't want us, don't like us, hate us, want to kill us, want to drive us away. Not only is that happening, but we got problems from within. So what's going to happen is we're going to see we have controversy arising between the herdsmen of Lot and the herdsmen of Avram. When they get out of Egypt, they go back to the land, and suddenly they can't get along anymore. And so they separate. There's this issue of how our own family separates from itself. We have conflict within our families, and we have to deal with it. That's a mashal. That's a teaching. We're supposed to be learning how to apply the instructions, the mitzvot of the Torah in the context of mashalim. Beyond the family relationships, we find we're engulfed in a world war. Without our making, Avram didn't make the world war. He didn't decide it. He didn't have anything to do with it. But he was caught up in it because all around him there was an invasion of the five nations of the north. Came down to attack the four nations of the north came down to attack the five nations of the cities of the plain. And this world war was on. And in the midst of it, Avram tries to remain neutral and just keep doing what he does and focus, but he can't, because what happens is that family separation that we talked about, when Lot went and lived within the cities of the plain, he became really deeply involved in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was there whenever the kings of the north came and their armies came, and they took him and his family, Lot and his family, his daughters, his wife, he took them all. They took as many others, and all the wealth of Sodom and the five cities of the plain. They took it and then plundered it, and the four kings of the north did. And that made Abraham get involved. How do you deal with this when you have to get involved, when it's your family? And we learned the law of captivity, the law of brethren in captivity. That is always going to motivate the people of the covenant to fix the situation and engage with the situation. If you don't want to if you don't want the wrath, if you don't want the energy, you don't want the power work of the people of the covenant, don't take captives of their people. They are duty bound to recover those captives. The seventh was war. The eighth thing is that Avram will be appearing before kings and dignitaries of the various different nations. This is where we see this plan took this shepherd, this goat herder up from Haran in his 70s, and suddenly has changed everything in his life and brought energy and kedusha, power, impetus into his life, and now he's appearing before kings, the king of Sodom, the king of Salem, and we see that take place. We see the mashal, the story being told, and the application process of what happens when we dedicate things possessions that we have in the earth to higher use, to divine use. We're going to see Abraham told to take animals, and he decides what to do with them. He wasn't told to separate them, cut them into pieces, and lay them out on a covenant basis. That wasn't what he was told. He did it. He dedicated them to divine use. And when you do that, you begin to see beyond the current, the present. When you dedicate the things that you have now to divine use, you begin to see with vision that allows you to see the future. Abraham saw 400 years in the future. He saw the captivity of his seed in Egypt, the oppression of them. He also saw in this vision. He saw the return, the triumphant return to the land in the fourth generation, 400 years. So this idea of learning that the key to seeing the future is to be willing to sacrifice what you have in the present for the use of the divine. And the 10th of the stories that we'll read about in Parsha Lecha will be the second family relationship challenge. When it gets closer than just uncle and nephew and Lot and Avram, now it's going to be in your own household. And so the second relationship challenge, Mashal, is Hagar and Ishmael, and the controversy with Sarai, and ultimately then they're involving Abraham. We see this process of family relationship challenge number 2. We have to deal with such stuff. We're not immune to it. It happens even in our families, and we need to be able to be a model of how to live with it, deal with it according to the plan and the instructions of the Holy One, not our emotions, not our feelings, not our sense of right and wrong, not even sense of morality. We deal with it according to the instructions of the Holy One. We apply the mitzvot to the mashal. And finally, we see at the end of the Parsha Lecha, the 11th mashal. The 11th mashal, the story, a parable to talk about is when the people of the Holy One are called to take a bold, no turning back, countercultural stand. And this is the sign of circumcision. Once you circumcise, there's no undoing it. Once you understand, and the circumcision is always, these mitzvot are always deeper than the surface. So we talk about the physical act of circumcision, and that's been talked about so much, and it is a very real thing. But it's an imagery of something deeper, because you see what happens when you circumcise is you trim away the area that is most sensitive to stimuli, and you create a firewall of numbness, skin, of scar tissue that prevents the infection and inflammation that goes along with extreme exposures to things. So we're talking about why all our areas of flesh reception, not just the physical part that is circumcised, but also the eyes, the ears, the heart, all the aspects of who we are, we'll see the circumcision work its way out in so many different ways. It's the matter of offering up our most sensitivity receptors to the Holy One and letting Him fix them where they're able to transcend and supersede. Okay. So, there are so many of these mitzvot and so many mashalim. Let's sing our call to worship. I'll release you to your studies and to your own times together or your own meditations to really dig deep into Parsha Lecha. The call to worship is the Baraku. Sing it with me if you know it. Baraku et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. And now may you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah, for we are just strangers in this earth, so do not hide your instructions from us. Now let us follow after, seek, pursue, and lay hold of the tree of life. Shabbat Shalom. I'll see you next week. For those of you who are interested, I'll see you in a few minutes talking about Mashiach, Nagid, and blessed is he who comes in the name of the Holy One. Amen.